Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to automate bill payment stubs in QuickBooks Desktop using Python. Why would you want to do something like this? Why would you want to automate bill payment stubs inside of QuickBooks, using Python? You would think that there'd be something, out of the box inside of, QuickBooks Desktop that would allow you to do this. There really isn't, like from what I could find anywhere. Comment down below if there's anything that I'm missing here. But I kind of looked everywhere, and I didn't even realize how big of a problem it was until I was kind of forced to do it on my own. And we pay a lot of vendors, bi-weekly, monthly, 80 to 100 of them. And so when you want to send out bill payment stubs, you would think that QuickBooks would just kind of take the email address that's on the file for the vendor and send them a little PDF saying, we're paying these invoices today for you, that kind of thing. Just as it does with paying your employees. You can send pay stubs to your employees, and it would use the email address that's on file to send them the pay stub. That's nice and easy and quick. But for some reason, bill payment stubs don't have that functionality, from what I can tell. But I found a little workaround there when I was kind of forced to do this on my own, and realized just how painstakingly ridiculous it is. It really is. Show you kind of what I mean. When you go into vendors, here I am in QuickBooks Desktop, vendors. I'm going to go to just pay bills, and I'm going to say whatever accounts payable I'm using, and I have some test invoices here that I created. I'm going to select all those bills. So the vendors are test vendor 1 through 5 kind of thing. No big deal. I'm just going to use our main checking account. It's a direct payment. Obviously, if you're sending a check, you don't have to send a bill payment stub that kind of comes on the check. But if you're doing a lot of direct deposit, then obviously this makes sense. Which we do. We do pretty much exclusively direct deposit. So anyways, I'm going to pay these guys. Just pay selected bills. There we go. Those are all paid in QuickBooks anyways. And now if you wanted to go send those bill payment stubs to those suppliers or those vendors, you would go to File, Print Forms, Bill Payment Stubs, and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, this is probably automated. Not really, because there's no option to email the bill payments that you just made. So there's nothing there. So what you're kind of forced to do, you can print all of these, but what it does, you could print it on paper, I guess, and then mail it out, but that's a pain. You could also save it to a PDF, but it'll save it as one big PDF file, which is just kind of hard to deal with. So really the only way, if you're going to just use email, if you're going to send these off in an email, you would have to do these one at a time and say, bill payment method. I guess that doesn't really matter. But anyways, select one of these and say, okay, you print it as PDF, you'd save that PDF to a folder somewhere, and then you do that 4 other times or 100 other times. And then you would create a separate email each time and just attach the file and send it to the email address. You can imagine how long this would take if it was 80 to 100 people. So anyways, I'm going to show you a way that at least I came up with using Python in order to kind of solve this problem. So for one, let's bring this file over here. So what do you need? Obviously you need QuickBooks Desktop. If you don't have QuickBooks Desktop, you probably don't have this problem. I don't dislike QuickBooks. I think it's good for what it does, but you would think that something like this would be just kind of out of the box. I've been, thinking that this feature would have been around for 20 years, but it hasn't. But anyways, QuickBooks Desktop. I tested with QuickBooks Premier Contractor Edition 2019 and 2020. I don't see any reason why this won't work for pretty much any QuickBooks Desktop installation. 2019 or after 2019. You need Python. If you don't have Python installed already, just Google install Python, go through the installation process. And then when you have that installed, you just have the base installation of Python. But for my code to work, you need a few packages that kind of go along with it, and it's really simple. So once you install Python, and you're using Windows. Sorry if you're not using Windows. I have no clue about Mac or anything like that, but I do know Windows a little bit. So anyways, once you have Python installed, what you want to do is you want to install, if you don't have them installed already, you just want to do a pip install for all these. So make sure when you're installing Python, add, it's probably easiest if you add Python to path. It's a question that it asks. You just have to tick that box when you install it. And then it'll add Python to the path in Windows. So you could pretty much do a pip install or run Python programs from any directory basically. So so what you would want to do is just go pip install pypdf2 and then enter, and then you're done that, and then do the same thing for pip install pdf plumber and pip install pypywin32. Those are the only things you need for that. You probably wouldn't need pypywin32 if you're not using Outlook, which is another thing that you kind of need for this. You don't have to use Outlook, just the code that I wrote assumes that you're using Outlook and will create a draft email for all these different bill payment stubs inside of Outlook. So, I mean, for ease of use, you can take the code and you can modify it however you want, and if you're not using Outlook, then fine. But yeah, so let's kind of get started here. I'll show you, first of all, exactly how this works, and then I'll show you the code and kind of, what it does. So just kind of as we did before, I'm just going to go, I'm in QuickBooks, obviously. I'm going to go to vendors, pay bills. I'm going to find those bills, those test bills to pay. Where did they go? Did I pay them already? Oh, right, I did pay them. Silly me. Okay, so they're already paid. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File and Print Forms and Bill Payment Stubs. And here we go. So here are all the ones that we paid inside of QuickBooks. And I'm just going to say, select them all, and I'm going to say OK. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to print to PDF using the Microsoft Print to PDF. I recommend using this as well when you're printing it to PDF or saving it as a PDF, as opposed to maybe like a QtFTP PDF writer. I didn't test it using those. I'm not saying it's not going to work, but when it comes to PDF files and reading them inside of like any programming language, really, I wouldn't want to kind of mess around with the types of programs used to create the PDF file. You kind of want to keep that consistent. So you'll be fine if you use the, it's built in, I think, with every installation of Windows 10, but Microsoft Print to PDF, you could use that. And I'm just going to print it. And I'm going to save this to I just have it on my desktop. You can save it anywhere you want. But I created a folder called Bill Payment Stubs, and I'm going to save it inside of here under the folder Full PDF. And I'm going to just call it, Test Full PDF or something like that, and save it. There, so it's done. Oh, there's the code there. We'll go back to that in a second, but I'll kind of show you how this works. I'm just going to go to that file, and I'm going to just run the code. So right now we have the full PDF. I'm going to open it here so you can see kind of what it looks like. So that's what QuickBooks kind of prints out for you. It's a bill payment stub. This is the test company name. It's paid to test vendor 1. You could have other information in here, like their address and things like that. It shows the invoices that are being paid, and it did that 5 times for those 5 vendors that we paid. So my script, once I run the script, oops, I don't want to get out of the virtual machine. I just want to close that. And once we go into the script here, I'm just going to run it using Python, run the module, and gives a couple of errors there. Really, it's one of the PDF modules that kind of gives, they're more warnings than they are errors. But anyway, I could suppress those warnings, but I just didn't, because it does what I want it to do. So now we still have our full PDF in there, but now if we go into our Outlook, you can see here in the drafts, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different drafts, and each one has a separate PDF file inside of it, and it's named after the name of the company, right? And so let's just kind of take a look at that. So this one here is just the one page for test vendor 1 that we paid. And here you see it's attached. It says bill payment advice, attaches your bill payment advice. The name of the PDF file is now test company paid to test vendor 1. So test company is the name of my test company QuickBooks file. This would be your company name. And after that would be paid to whatever their vendor name is in the system. So it does that for 5, in this case, the 5 that we paid. What I would then just do is like enter their email addresses in here and hit send. I could also automate that. I just didn't take it this far yet, but I could also just grab the email that's on file for this company. It's simple enough to do that. But when I was doing this, like I kind of know, what the email address is, and right off the bat, I was kind of just testing. I didn't want to just kind of send the emails to all the vendors, right away without making sure that 100% that it works, and it does work now. So I think I'll just kind of add a little bit of code to it to enter their email address and kind of send it. So I don't really have to do anything. Yeah, let's just kind of close this for now, and I'll show you the code. So let's just go into here. So here's the code. So basically what it does, at the top here, it's just loading in the different modules that you need. I defined 2 different functions. One is a PDF splitter, so it takes like the whole gigantic PDF and splits it up into individual pages. Nothing too fancy there. And this is the function for emailing, so it takes in some text, it takes in a subject, and it takes in the attachment, which is one of those pages of the PDFs. It basically also takes kind of the current directory that things are kind of saved in, and it uses that so it's able to kind of take the full PDF, break it into individual pages, and then save it to another folder that's just kind of like right above it, and do what it needs to do with that, and then kind of delete them at the end of it. So there's a lot of that stuff happening here. What it does is it kind of loops through each saved PDF from the output folder and extracts the business name. So basically what it does is it takes that big PDF, splits it into each individual page, saves that into another folder, and then it loops through each one of those new PDFs in that folder, and it extracts the business name. And then it does the same thing where it loops through each one, and now that it knows the business name, it can rename the file. And after it's done that, it will loop through each PDF and attach it to an email draft inside of Outlook. So basically that's all it is. That's pretty simple. If you wanted to automate this a little bit more and have the email addresses in there, I'll show you kind of where QuickBooks is pulling that information from. So if I go into vendors, here we go, here's test vendor, for example. We'll go to test vendor 1. Under here in the build from section, if you kind of made it your standard to for all your vendors inside of QuickBooks, you can have the top, you can do it in whatever order you want, but the way I would kind of suggest is the top line here in the address details is the vendor name, makes sense. And then you could just say, on line number 2, put in the email address that you want to send the bill payment stubs to. So you could have like, test vendor at test.com, whatever, and just save it like that. And then when you print the bill payment stubs, you will also have access to not just the company name here, test vendor 1, but you also have the email address and whatever other information you want to do and use. So So there we go. Yeah, I hope this helps you and saves you some time. Sure, is saving us time. So use it and be safe. Awesome. See you guys.